Hello. I'm Willy Bragg. How are you today? Um, I'm doing okay. I live streamed this morning just to talk about Pope Francis's demise, and then I had to go and get some sleep, and I'm back. So we have here Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. How are you doing, my friend? And we also have here Bella Lugrisi. Who the fuck cares about these assholes? What a waste of breath. Well, I respectfully disagree because um, need to expose all the people who are fraudsters out there, and and I think that's very important to preserve what's best about the left because there are people out there that are grifters and sell out, so what have you. This channel's not even monetized yet, so I just want to go and spread the truth um, as I see it. Cowboy Kitty, how are you doing today? And I hope everybody's doing well today. And we'll get underway with what we got to talk about here. And what we're going to talk about is, is the Young Turks and their founder, Cenk Uygur. And the reason I'm bringing it up is that, for several years, Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, I know that's John Iorola right there on the side. I really don't. I mean, and that's nothing against him. I just think he's boring. But that was the only photo of the Young Turks I could find with Cenk and Anna. So John Iorola is not really relevant to this video here. I don't know if he's ever been all that relevant, even when I was watching the Young Turks. I think that might have been one of the found him always boring. But I'm not here to shit on John Iorola. He seems like a nice guy otherwise. But Cenk and Anna, let's talk about them. When Dave Rubin decided to do the Rubin Report and the grift toward the right, by 2018 he was in MAGA land at that point. And so in the very beginning, when he left in 2015, bought the rights to the Rubin Report, which was created by the Young Turks, by the way. He started off as a relatively soft Bernie bro who was opposed to political correctness. Not exactly the worst place to be in the year 2015, 2016. When you look back in hindsight, you had to understand the time. To rail against political correctness, I can understand that. But then there was the twist of having conservative guests on the show, which in itself was not controversial. You could be able to talk to whoever the hell you want. But I started to notice a pattern. I wasn't like a really avid Rubin Report viewer either. But when I would just sit there and watch it just for a little bit, I would notice that, you have a Steven Crowder or a Ben Shapiro or a Dinesh D'Souza type up there. And I've said this a million times. I don't have a problem if you're on the left or purportedly being on the left if you accidentally agree with a conservative occasionally. There are some times where the issue's neither lefty or righty, and we're all complex human beings. We can be, I don't believe that there is a lefty alive that is 100% leftist and doesn't have a conservative viewpoint. And I do not believe there's a conservative out there that's totally Kool-Aid drinking. There is an area where a liberal, a left, a progressive perspective is viewed upon favorably. Doesn't mean that because you might depart from everybody on one issue that makes you too far gone. I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with Dave Rubin was, and I will get back to Cenk and Anna in a second, because leads to what's happened to Cenk and Anna, is that he will have these people on the show, and it would be like he would totally agree with every single fucking goddamn word that spews out of their mouth like diarrhea. And then it'll be like, oh, I agree. I agree. And everybody on the left is totally evil. That would be basically Dave Rubin's position. And I'm like, no, fuck this guy. Fuck this guy. I'm not literally, because I don't swing that way. Don't have a problem with those who do. But I'm just saying, the hell with him. Thankfully, last year, I got blocked by Dave Rubin because I annoyed the hell out of him on Twitter. So, so there you have it. The Young Turks, they did this to Jimmy Dore as well. And they did this to Glenn Greenwald. Now, I don't watch Jimmy Dore like I used to. And I know I have some Jimmy Dore fans out there in the audience. And I agree with him most of the time. But there's sometimes he come up with a point of view or an issue where I'm just like, no, I'm not quite with you there, But my point is that the Young Turks would criticize him and Glenn Greenwald and people like that for going on Tucker Carlson. Okay. From what I've noticed, and I will defend Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald here, when they go on Tucker Carlson show, they don't go up there to sit there and take a shit on socialism or take a shit on LGBTQ rights, or take a shit on and agree with Tucker Carlson on all the hideous right-wing issues that embraced by Tucker Carlson. Usually when Jimmy Dore or Glenn Greenwald or someone like that comes on the show, it's usually where an area where there is common ground or agreement. If it's like if Tucker Carlson, when he comes up with a position that's anti-war or something like that, or domestic civil liberties, like maybe the deep state, which during the Biden years, it really broke my damn heart to see a lot of liberals and progressives and even some lefties that were cheering the deep state or not having a problem with the deep state because they were they had woke characteristics at that point. And now that deep state took down their rainbow flag and they got their Proud Boys flag up, figuratively speaking. What I'm trying to say is that the area of the deep state, to be consistent, the right wing were opposed to the deep state, but they were opposed to it for the wrong reasons. And now we're seeing it kind of turn around again. That the deep state is back in to where it was during the Bush-Cheney years, maybe further right wing now. And that you have some liberals are thinking, well, maybe wasn't that good of an idea to legitimize this deep state. And this was there was area common ground on that issue. Julian Assange was another issue. An issue where the Young Turks were kind of bad on. They didn't particularly like Julian Assange. They thought he was a Russian asset or something like that. And let me get rid of this thing. I am so sorry. Hold on a second. There we go. So there was areas of common ground. And it was done on the terms of the left. And honestly, I find me an episode where Jimmy Dore or Glenn Greenwald or Max Blumenthal would go on Tucker Carlson and they were embracing positions embraced by, like something that Rush Limbaugh would be embracing. Find me an episode of Tucker Carlson when that's happened. And here's the thing about Tucker Carlson, and I'm not a fan of Tucker Carlson, but Tucker Carlson was, in my opinion, sacked from Fox News because of the people from the African People's Socialist Party down in St. Petersburg, Florida, that were the U.S. Department of Justice sought after. He defended them on basically free speech grounds and all this sort of thing. And Fox News has a narrative, just like MSNBC and CNN has a narrative. Well, CNN is to be both sides, to be on both sides. MSNBC is there to basically prop up the corporate Democrats, occasionally some of the more leftier Democrats. Fox News was, during the Bush-Cheney years, they were George W. Bush, Dick Cheney cocksuckers. They were just simply anti-Obama during the anti-Obama years, and which was pretty much a continuation of the Bush-Cheney era. During the Donald Trump era, they were pro-Donald Trump. There was a time period when after he was defeated, whether they did not know to go on the Trump camp or the DeSantis camp, but they ultimately went with the Trump camp, and now it's basically Trump cock-sucking season at Fox News. So that's the narrative. They wouldn't have any narrative that was favorable to the left or sympathetic to the left. So he got sacked. That's my opinion. I could be correct, as usual. Now, and I think that's basically what happened when it came to Tucker Carlson. So anyway, what I want to discuss is the turn to the right of the Young Turks. Now, the Young Turks got a lot of programs under their wing. Like usually there's like about 20 affiliates or so, and a lot of them are still on the left for the most part. And I don't know what's going to happen to those affiliates. I mean, what's going to happen if Cenk and Anna goes full MAGA? Right now, they're sort of flirting with MAGA in the same way Dave Rubin flirted with MAGA back in 2017 and 2018 before he went full MAGA. And I think that's kind of where the Young Turks are at. They don't know where to go. So I guess basically I'll give you an example of this talk. Now Anna Kasparian, Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian had Charlie Kirk from TP USA, Toilet Paper USA. And here they are just yucking it up.
Charlie, look, I said that Trump that day was courageous. You were legit. That's why I'm here today, is because you were like one of the honest guys on the left that was like, okay, that's pretty ballsy. Yeah, no question. He did a great job. And I love when the crowd chanted USA, USA, because the president had just been saved, right? And so former president, but we still call former presidents President Trump, et cetera. And that was a great moment. He says, fight, fight, fight. They say USA, USA. I love that. That makes me proud of America, okay? Now, having said that, you know that has nothing to do with policy. Charlie, look, I said that Trump that day was courageous. You were legit. That's why I'm here today, is because you were like one of the honest guys on the left that was like, okay, that's pretty.
Okay, and they're of course talking about when the attempt on Trump's life took place, and that attempt, and here's the thing: I hate Donald Trump. Well, I hate him more now than I did the first time around. I'll put it that way. He's a vile piece of shit as far as I'm concerned. Trump can spin on this middle finger here. So anyway, what I'm trying to say about Trump is, with regard to Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, I don't have a problem with I don't have a problem with saying it sucks that somebody's life there will be an assassination attempt. I don't have a problem with that. But he started to go to these conferences and started to talk about MAGA and how they're not so bad. And they were and it was being done in a way where Cenk Uygur was acting like Charlie Kirk's little bitch boy. Look, I respect Ron Paul. I don't like his libertarian economics. He's wrong on a couple of social issues, but Ron Paul is not a bad person. I mean, if Ron Paul was to come on the Willy Bragg show, I would certainly treat him with respect. I mean, I would treat all my guests with respect, obviously. But the problem, there's not a problem with Ron Paul. Ron Paul, I wouldn't do it in a way where I would want him to be pushed into my direction per se. It would obviously be something where we find common ground. I don't have a problem with that. But what Charlie Kirk did regarding Cenk Uygur, indefensible, just can't be defended. Anna Kasparian going on Ben Shapiro. Now, I don't have a problem with Anna Kasparian going on Ben Shapiro. I'll play a little bit of this.
The conversation increasingly becomes dominated by lunatics. And I don't think that's representative of most Americans. And there's also this problem of lumping in everyone together in like this neat little box of
You did that, Anna Kasparian, over the years. You did that.
Ideology, right? So I think in the mind of
Ben Shapiro is also guilty of that.
Minds of a lot of people on the left, you are the exact same person as Tucker Carlson, right? And I think you're different. I think you're different from Matt Walsh. I think you're different from Candace Owens. You guys are all in the same network. I commend you for...
Tucker Carlson may be a piece of shit, but he's better than Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is a neocon, bloodthirsty warmonger who loved the surveillance state and loved war and loved waterboarding. At least Tucker Carlson seemed to be against those things. He's wrong on everything else, but,
for having differences of opinion on the same network. And I'm sure it can be uncomfortable at times, but there are nuances and differences. And I think it's important for people to be cognizant of that, because I don't want to be lumped in with someone on the far left, right? I have significantly different opinions from them on certain matters.
Yeah, you give Ben Shapiro the time of day, who is supposedly your opposite, but you have a problem with a journalist like Aaron Matei from the Gray Zone. That so much so that you went on an unhinged rant and you gave him the middle finger, very unprofessional. Yeah, I know I gave the middle finger a few minutes ago, but I used the middle finger. But the difference is I don't claim to be a professional. I'm not even a journalist. I'm just a loudmouth asshole that likes to talk about politics. No, she's being very highly hypocritical here.
And I think it's important to know what those differences are and not let, again, the extreme ends of the spectrum represent the entire country.
So, one of the things that you mentioned there is the idea that you have to run on something, not run against something. And obviously negative campaigning is the most effective form of campaigning, despite all of the happy talk about how when you campaign for things, people rally behind you. People who are policy wonks tend to do very poorly in elections.
No wonder his wife can't get wet. Just look at him. Anyway, so what I want to talk about now is basically this channel that calls himself Political Punk. I gave him a chance, decided to listen to him a little bit and say, and I'm just like, okay, he's probably going to be like maybe Jello Biafra in his earlier days or something like that. Let's see what this guy's about. And he's not really a far lefty. Not that I'm trying to impose any purity tests. but I would say ideologically, he might even be to the right of the Young Turks, even now, as the Young Turks goes into a MAGA direction, or not, or kind of just part ways with the left, seemingly enough. But no, I mean, and I don't mean any harm. I've been listening to his show for some time now, and gosh, he's terrible. His takes, and all he does. Now I'm doing it right now, but I don't do it all the time. I mean, I did it in the early days of the Willy Bragg show back in 2020, to talk about the online left, gossip. I do engage in it sometimes. I even enjoy it. I mean, it's funny sometimes. But he's gotten, and I'm not jealous because his channel grew very fast. But all he does is would sit there and just talk about the Young Turks and the beat that's going on, it'll be today the Young Turk, Cenk, and gosh, what's her name, Francesca Fiorentini, little spew, little spat, whatever. Basically his channel is the Vanguard. That's not even as good as the Vanguard. And I'm not a fan of the Vanguard anymore. Too shit lady for my taste. I mean, they're probably better than young Young Turks at this point. But, it's like basically, how would I describe him? A generic version of the Vanguard. So, and I not have nothing against Zach and Gavin saying this. They can be a little shit-livy at times, but I don't just passionately dislike them or anything like that. So here it is, political punk ready to engage in some gossip, and I'll share with you what I think.
You got to go to Cenk Uygur. Charlie Kirk did put this tweet out. He didn't condemn Trump. He merely took a shot at hey, we don't like it when they over-police us, so don't over-police them. But he did not at all take a shot at Trump. It's this tweet. This was the tweet where he's basically saying freedom of speech. They always swing it the mutilation of children. There's no fucking children being mutilated, and there's no radical gender propaganda. There's just acceptance. These guys.
Okay, that part I agree with. Nothing controversial.
Guys are such fucking weirdos. But he is he's got this weird anti-Semitism thing that he doesn't quite buy. No, the framing of all this is nonsensical because it's all basically fucking bullshit. Okay, they like hate speech. They want hate speech to be protected. That is what Cenk Uygur is talking about.
Anti-Semitism becomes valid grounds to censor or even imprison somebody. There will be frantic efforts to label all kinds of speech as anti-Semitic. Not only that, but all of this won't even work. Legal crackdown won't make anti-Semitism go away. In the long run, it would make it worse. America's free speech tradition is our birthright. We should never get rid of it.
Okay, so here's the deal, though. Yeah, I know they quoted Charlie's tweet. They're using Charlie's tweet. I believe you can have free speech and you can monitor hate speech. I believe the two are possible. They are.
Okay. I hate speech myself. But if you were, who's to define what is hate speech on the one hand? And on the other hand, usually when you shut a voice down, even a shitty voice down, it comes back to haunt you. The left has been attacked and silenced during this liberal wave of censorship that has taken place in the past decade. And now you can see the right wing weaponizing the shit out of it. And they get to keep their hate speech. And I think that basically the best way to fight speech is you despise is to counter it with your speech. I've always believed that from day one. It's that ACLU tendency from years ago that still haunts within my political soul.
Are possible. If you're going to have a public square, you must address hate speech. You have to, and I totally agree, though, with the government not being able to put you in prison, the free speech applying to the government the way it is in the First Amendment, that the government cannot punish you. Now, here's what's odd is right now the government is punishing speech.
All the reason why you should not be trying to fight free speech.
They're talking about free speech, but Mahmoud Khalil, speech. The Tufts University woman with the op-ed, speech. Harvard, they're trying to compel Harvard over speech. Maine over speech. The AP, they kicked them out of the fucking briefings because of the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, come on, man.
Yes, this is why you should not have something like a but or yet or however when it comes to free speech. If you say you're for free speech, you're for free speech. That includes government repression against individuals. And look, fuck property rights. Is social media is the new public forum. It's the new town square. And if you have something to say on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or Rumble, and you're not threatening people's lives, you're not trying to incite violence, you can say any shitty thing you want to say.
Government is actively punishing speech. They're firing people from government jobs if they talked about woke shit. Like right now, literally, the Trump admin is totally anti-free speech. And they're trying to use this anti-Semitism shit as their blanket. And now you can say, well, what is hate speech? But I think you can figure that out. There's a way to moderate that. I mean, you don't need to be using slurs. There's no reason to use slurs. And
okay, I understand about the slurs because you can make a statement that's incitement to violence. But again, I would say anything that's incitement to violence, anything that's a threat, a direct threat, that sort of thing. Yeah, obviously not allowed. But Alex Jones talking about the stage actors at Cindy Hook. Alex Jones says stupid things when it comes to conspiracy theories. Saying that saying that Obama is from Kenya, which he's not. But it's a conspiracy theory. It's stupid. It's retarded. It was created by Hillary Clinton, and the right wing is so fucking stupid and retarded that they adopted it themselves without knowing where it came from. But as far as saying that Michelle Obama's got a penis, saying that Hillary Clinton sacrificed children in satanic cult and smear blood on her. So I mean, saying shit like that's crazy. It's nonsense. And if they would say that about Marjorie Taylor Greene, I would think it would be nonsense. Fuck censorship. Because I talked about the 2000 election in Florida getting stolen by George W. Bush against Al Gore. Al Gore, who I didn't like, but that election was stolen in 2000. I had my channel shut down for a week because the algorithms thought I was talking about the 2020 election, referring to the possible stealing of the election from Donald Trump. I never believed that Joe Biden cheated in the election either in 2020, but I got shut down for a week about 3 years ago for that. So no, he's wrong. Fuck any form of censorship.
There's nothing wrong with deplatforming people. I don't think if they use hate speech, I know some people are against that, but I don't know. I think words can be really harmful. And the way I discovered it too is words are really harmful to the people on the bottom rung,
Okay, I'm sorry about the buffering here. I don't know why it's buffering.
what I'm saying? It's like the effect of words gets harder the more marginalized or the less power you have. Exactly. The less power you have, the more fucking harmful those words are. So that needs to be taken into account.
For those who follow Charlie Kirk, I don't even know if we didn't tell you who wrote all that, they would believe it was him.
Yeah, look, I know that people are wedded to their positions, and so they usually never come off of them, no matter what the overwhelming facts are. So look, guys, Charlie Kirk has a history that is not pleasant.
See, before he goes in and whatever he says about Charlie Kirk, I want to tell you why Charlie Kirk is making this stand. Because at the end of the day, Charlie Kirk needs hate speech to be legal. He needs it. His entire TPUSA, his entire campaign to radicalize young white men and to keep the billions of dollars flowing from the evangelicals through Charlie Kirk's political apparatus. They need hate speech to be legal and free.
And the left needs to keep speech free to counter their bullshit. It ends up attacking us. Look what happened when Elon Musk took over Twitter. Accounts get shut down. Accounts would be shut down. And so, and Dinesh D'Souza was pleading with Elon Musk to find every left of center account on Twitter to suspend them for a week or two just to see how they like it. And that's another reason I'm not a conservative, because it's all about revenge politics. The hyper right, ultra conservative right wing extremists positions that these people have. It's all about revenge.
It is the basis of what they do. So no matter how Charlie Kirk feels, okay, he's a hypocrite because he's supporting Trump, and Trump is fucking First Amendmenting, sacrificing it all over, threatening universities, Columbia, Harvard, Yale, all this shit.
Call him out on it. I mean, I know you're calling him out on it in this show, but that's what you need to do. You need to call out. You need the free speech to expose these wackos, and you scream as loud as you can. Look what hypocrites these people are, and you do it relentlessly. And listen, you will win over normies in the long run. You'll win. You'll have a winning coalition on that issue alone. If you take a principled stand on free speech, because when you do that, you make the right wing look hypocritical, and that's what it comes down to.
The AP and Charlie Kirk is fully supporting him, so he doesn't fucking care when that shit gets clamped down upon. Okay, when his side does it. But they do need hate speech, particularly anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ, anti-woman, okay, in order to be able to fucking function for their ultimate goal. So Charlie Kirk is going to say this shit because he needs to. He's got a mission to radicalize young white men, and the hate speech is required. But anyway, let's see, Jay.
Look, I know that people are wedded to their positions, and so
Okay, some people claim hurting Israel's feelings is a form of hate speech. You realize if you get your way, political punk, you're going to see more Mahmoud Khalils around getting detained by our government, and God knows sending them where, God knows only where they're going to go next. Whether it's Guantanamo, El Salvador, or some prison that we don't know about, or whatever installation inside the United States where, and thanks to Obama signing the NDAA, it made this happen. Bush and Cheney and Obama made Trump happen. And that's what people need to realize. Donald Trump isn't just funny anymore. Donald Trump is dangerous. And political punk, your attitude is right down there with Michelle Obama hugging on George W. Bush, 2018, 2019, something like that. That's where that's at. It's on that level. And, you keep doing this. If Trump lives through this term, and if J.D. Vance takes Trump's politics and push it far right, if he becomes president, people like yourself, y'all be normalizing Donald Trump at that point and wanting to hug on him the way that Michelle Obama was hugging on George W. Bush. It just keeps happening.
Usually never come off of them, no matter what the overwhelming facts are. So look, guys, Charlie Kirk has a history that is not pleasant. And we massively disagree with him on many other things, right? And
Dude, Cenk wanted to have a beer with him. Who's the we, Cenk? You agreed with him on some shit, but you want to have a beer with that chiclet tooth motherfucker. So
we all know what he said about black pilots, right? And we all know what he said about MLK Day, right? So those things, this opinion does not wash away all of those other statements and all those other positions, right? At the same time, those other positions don't wash away this agreement, because this agreement is super important. So we have to be able to fight on other issues.
See, the thing though is Cenk is doing the right-wing thing here. He's saying, you know what? It doesn't matter that this guy is wildly racist and toxic on all these other issues. As soon as he's on our side in one issue, we're going to like use him. We're going to be transactional, okay, and use him. But this is how the Republicans have Nazis in their party. They're like, well, we don't agree with them on the neo-Nazi openly shit, but we all hate trans people, so therefore we're going to let them in the party. And this is what
that might be a little bit true when it comes to the Republican Party. Okay, stop clock. It's the right time twice a day to political punk.
Right-wingers do, whereas no, you have to have a basis of human rights, right? If you're going to do the racist DEI shit and then you're going to support whatever, it does not count. No, it's either like you either can do the equitable human rights for all or don't do any, because you're full of shit. If your human rights don't apply to everybody, then you don't believe in human rights. Okay, you believe in selective, like when your morality approves of somebody, you believe they deserve human rights. But this is the same Charlie Kirk that thinks the Fifth Amendment says all citizens. He thinks the Fifth Amendment only applies to citizens because he's a fucking clown.
And I agree on things where we can build an effective coalition. And who is Trump more likely to listen to? Me or Charlie Kirk?
See, that's just it. Cenk wants to build an effective coalition. What's an effective coalition? You think Charlie Kirk is ever going to be part of a coalition for left-wing people? There's no fucking way, dude. Like, what kind of effective coalition are you going to have?
Okay, maybe there's a semi-point he's making here. I don't want the left to go to the right for them to join the right. And I'm cool if the right agrees with the left for whatever reasons on a particular issue. And I'm willing to, I'm okay with, I'm not a red-brown alliance type of person, but you know, if Ted Cruz says I'm for Medicare for all, am I going to go and say, you know, fuck Ted Cruz, fuck Medicare for all because he's for Medicare for all? See, Trump was right to get rid of TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership. I saw a lot of lefties all of a sudden cheering the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Prior to Trump running in 2015, it was the left that was opposed to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. In fact, there was, and this was when Elizabeth Warren was base. They had a conference on TPP in the Senate, and Mitch McConnell basically said no cameras, no pencils, no paper, or anything like that. And she raised a ruckus about it. Because we all know what Trans-Pacific Partnership is about. It's about harming the manufacturing base even more than it's been harmed. And it's about a race to the bottom in terms of wages. And that's what it's going to be. I mean, and we're seeing this with the tariffs. Now, I think that Trump's tariffs are stupid. It's retarded. And I just think he's all over the place. And I'm a protectionist myself. But you got to do protectionism strategically. You got to have a basic industrial policy in the United States that would keep the manufacturing base here. I would say with some of them, I wouldn't even put it in private hands. Some of them I make public if I could. But that's neither here nor there. Well, it actually is either here and there. But anyway. my point is, political punk seems to be like, well, if Trump says something or the Republicans says something, even if it's a lefty position, and in that particular moment, where there's a stop clock given the right time twice a day, all of a sudden, you're not going to embrace it anymore. This is why you had Kamala Harris, in the words of Breonna Joy Gray, bumping fists with Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney. And I get some odd stares from people when I tell them I would never want to be in common cause with Liz Cheney or Dick Cheney or anybody from the Bush family.
With Charlie Kirk. This is bullshit. No, there's not going to be any leftist coalition with Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump. Fuck these guys. And fuck Cenk Uygur if he's coalitioning with these guys.
All of us, we're Charlie Kirk, Dave Smith, and by the way, breaking news, Steve Bannon. So I'm going to get to Steve Bannon in a second, okay? So no, any rational person knows he's more likely to listen to them. Who's he more likely to listen to? The left-wing base or the right-wing base? These are not complicated questions.
Okay, here's a story. Before Donald Trump's term was up, Jimmy Dore and Tucker Carlson were trying to find a way to have Julian Assange released from prison. And Tucker Carlson apparently was in contact with Donald Trump, trying to encourage him to have him freed and pardoned. Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and Marco Rubio basically told Trump that if you pardon Julian Assange, if there's a trial in the Senate with this impeachment, we're going to vote to have you, prosecuted. So, here's the thing. Julian Assange, which is a non-issue because he's now a free man, and something I never thought would take place. If he would have been freed right there, I would actually have something nice to say about Trump. At least on that issue, I would, just as I would TPP. Never mind that he's a piece of shit on 95% of everything else. But that's not going to turn me into MAGA to say, well, somebody did good on this issue or what have you. If anything anything that's a left position that becomes policy, no matter who's enacted, or building a movement where people can agree on this one issue, I don't have a problem with. So I don't like Cenk Uygur, but Cenk Uygur is not entirely wrong, but Cenk Uygur is brown-nosing MAGA too much, brown-nosing Charlie Kirk too much. That part I will agree with Political Punk, but Political Punk is not exactly being a voice of reason either.
You all know the answer. So if we can swing
Dude, Trump ain't listening to anybody, bro.
Charlie Kirks of the world to have this position, that's amazing. That's amazing. Take the win. I'm taking the win. I don't mean for me. I mean in the policy position.
Dude, it's crazy though, because Cenk won't take the win on where him and Sam Cedar agree, right? Right? What win? Dude, Cenk and Sam Cedar, do they agree on some shit? Can they take a win? Can they have a beer? Can they be on each other's show? Huh. It's weird, huh?
If these guys had joined in into, oh yeah, round up all of Israel's critics. No, freedom of speech is not important. Who cares? Let's cancel them, right? Then it would have been much, much harder to stop this madness. Now it just got a little easier to stop the madness. It doesn't mean that it's going to stop overnight. It doesn't mean Trump's going to listen to Charlie Kirk or anyone else, right? But this
dude, he still thinks Trump is going to listen to people and like get sane. Like, how long is this motherfucker gonna like go along with this charade, bro?
It's a big step in the right direction, and I'll take those wins. Dave Smith's a little bit more complicated. Dave Smith has always been a critic of how Israel's conducting this war, the Israeli government overall, and he voted for Trump, and he's a Trump supporter, and he has positions that are also what we would consider right-wing and wouldn't agree with at all. But he's a complicated and really smart guy, and on foreign policy, a lot of times he agrees with us.
Well, Dave Smith, again, I'm not a fan of Dave Smith, but Dave Smith, I commend Dave Smith for criticizing Trump on the crackdown on free speech and the warmongering, where Donald Trump all of a sudden discovered that he's a Bush Cheney neocon on steroids. I'm glad that people like Dave Smith is condemning that. And of course, classic Ron Paul is going to do the same thing. I'm glad for that. And in Cenk's words, if that's a win, that's a win. When somebody from the other side. Now, I don't like Alex Jones, except he's entertaining. I don't like him politically, but I have seen Alex Jones, when he has the occasional moment of clarity, defend, not necessarily defending the left, but condemning the injustice against the left. Like when the cops were cracking down on Occupy Wall Street a decade ago, I've heard Alex Jones talking shit about what the cops were doing to the leftist demonstrators. I mean, Alex Jones is still wrong on a whole lot of shit. But, I'm not going to be like, well, maybe it's a good idea for the cops to crack down on the left-wing demonstrators, because Alex Jones seems to be sympathetic toward the idea of not cracking down on left-wing demonstrators. That's basically where the logic of this guy, political punk, seems to be headed.
And he's definitely anti-war. So you see, it's a mix of different folks with slightly different opinions, but coalescing around this idea of, no, freedom of speech means freedom of speech. And Israel doesn't get to take that away and start arresting and deporting people because they criticized Israel. And in the case of the people that have been arrested so far, it's crystal clear. They have no evidence connecting them to Hamas or terrorism or anything. All they have is an op-ed criticizing Israel. One guy, a Palestinian student that went to Columbia, who went on TV and was talking about how terrible anti-Semitism is and how we have to build coalitions with Jewish brothers and sisters to stop the war and save everybody's lives. So, no, they picked the worst possible targets. We got lucky on that, in a sense, on that. But we're now getting a little bit lucky to get even Charlie Kirk on this issue to join us.
We're a little bit lucky to get Charlie Kirk in on this issue to join us. But what does that get you, Cenk Uygur? What does that get you, other than alienating you from everyone on your side? What does it get you that you and Charlie Kirk agree here? Like how? What does that mean? Is that going to get Abrego Garcia back? Right? Is that going to end Trump trashing the economy? Is it going to prevent Charlie Kirk from radicalizing young men to hate women and trans people and LGBTQ people, to create an army of Andrew Tate clones in the youth and unleash them on America and try to monetize them and help them keep political power? And you're going to allow that shit to happen, and you're going to subtly endorse it and give it your stamp of approval, all because he said something about free speech that makes you feel like you have an ally because you so desperately want somebody that is connected to that power structure? Like, why are you doing that? All they're going to do, Cenk, if they agree with you and you welcome them in, all they're going to do is they're going to use you. They're going to use you to fuck over people, and that's it.
Okay. He's right about that, about being used as a tool. Here's the answer. I got an answer to that. Don't allow them to use you as a tool. If you have an opportunity to have something done on that one issue where you do agree, do it on your terms. Do not do it on their terms. I can accept somebody, a leftist, working with a conservative, as long as the leftist doesn't give ground. And even if the conservative's not giving ground and they're doing it from their conservative perspective, who cares? I got criticized a couple of years ago about the attempted weapon sales. It actually went through, unfortunately, from the United States to Saudi Arabia. And there was coalitions being built in the Senate. And you had Bernie Sanders and Rand Paul. I know Bernie Sanders is a letdown, but in the context of this conversation, he is what people view as the left in this country. He was working with Rand Paul on trying to put a stop to arms sales to Saudi Arabia, which those arms ended up committing a genocide against the people of Yemen. What happened? When I said that, I got attacked when I said something nice about Rand Paul. Oh, well, you know that Rand Paul supports a national right to work law. What are you doing? You're now supporting Rand Paul, the Mises Caucus of the libertarian movement? No, I'm not. I'm just saying that he's correct to want to put a stop to arms sales to Saudi Arabia. Rand Paul and foreign policy is not that bad. Doesn't mean that I want to sit there, get down on my knees, and get face fucked by Rand Paul. It means that I agree with him on that particular aspect of foreign policy. No, when it comes to national right to work, fuck Rand Paul. Fuck all Republicans when it comes to labor issues. Actually, even fuck many Democrats on that issue. But here's the thing. When it comes to areas where it's important enough, where people's lives are in danger, you go and you make an alliance. Go ahead and make an alliance if you can put a stop to an arms sale that's going to end up destroying other people's lives. When Ron Paul was a member of Congress and Dennis Kucinich were members of Congress, those two used to work together on a lot of legislation to put a stop to George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. And I had no problem with that. I have no problem with people working together to put a stop to an actual evil. Now, would I support, I'm just going to say, would I support Kashama Sawant working with the National Association of Manufacturers to go and make sure corporations get more capital gains tax cuts or what have you? Of course not. Of course not. But would I support anything that's going to actually end up being beneficial to the left? There are certain avenues where that can happen. And I don't think political punk is privy to that as a concept.
They're going to use you. They're going to invite you over to trash the other party and then use that to win. And then they're going to harm all those people and everybody that's not you guys with a lot of money. They're going to use you. They're going to move the goalposts, right? They're going to arrest people for their speech. Donald Trump is literally arresting people for their speech. Him and Marco Rubio, it's like the State Department's new philosophy. There's so many problems I have with the entire framing of that. He used the America First. He said it's a good thing about America First. Forget about all the KKK shit. And all-
No, fuck the KKK shit. But I mean, don't try to put that straw man there. Don't try to put a straw man and trying to find the darkest aspect of what exists on the right and say, well, if you go and work with Charlie Kirk for 5 minutes, that you're automatically an alt-right person as far as you're concerned at that point. I mean, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous, you know? I cannot think of the name of the U.S. senator from Utah, a Republican senator prior to Mike Lee. And he was an ultra-conservative senator. I mean, like hard right. And he got primaried. I just thought about this now. He was primaried. If I will get his name in a moment here. He was primaried not because he was a rhino Republican. He was primaried because he was cordial with Democrats in the Senate. He got along well, like on a personal level, with these folks, and with the right wing brand, they wanted to go and make an example out of him. My battery's running low. I will be right back in 2 seconds. Give me a second here. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm back. I got the camera. I got the battery working again. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that you're practicing the same thing that the Tea Party practiced back in a decade ago, political punk. But you're doing it from your little down the line establishment Democrat shit libby. I'm going to go back to brunch when Donald Trump was no longer president attitude that existed prior to his comeback last November. It's amazing. And why is it political punks not harder on the Democrats that play footsies with the right, like Chuck Schumer? And here's the thing, the Democratic Party since the days of Bill Clinton have actually played footsies with Republican policies and ideas. And they pride themselves on wanting to get along, just to get along. To the point where the Republicans know that they can get anything they want out of the Democrats, spit on them, bitch slap them, and still get their way, and then accuse the Democrats of being the worst of everything you can imagine. You're kind of doing the same thing when you normalize normie Democrats, political punk.
All the Hitler shit, we're going to forget about all that because they agree with us on this one thing. So America first, good now. So he's like using their language. He's done the same thing with his description of the radical left. He started to use their language, the radical left.
You're not radical left. What are you talking about? You're not radical left.
He has adopted their same transactional nature. Like, forget about Charlie Kirk being a racist and all the DEI substituting for the N-word. He's like, we agree with them on something, so we're going to make a coalition together. But a coalition for what? What's the coalition? And he's still got that pie in the sky of thinking Trump can be reasoned with, even though, like, how he thinks that, like, he's lying. There's no way he actually thinks that. There's no fucking way, right? There's just no way. I mean, if Cenk Uygur still thinks Trump can be reasoned with and MAGA's not going to, like, spin and move the goalposts instantaneously, he's either he knows this and he's just disingenuous because of the Peter Thiel money, or he doesn't know this and he's really the dumbest fucking political commentator on the planet. Yeah, I know he knows. Of course. These guys know. These fucking grifters, they know. Trump, though, I'm not surprised that Trump is going to punish the critics of Israel because Trump does not believe in free speech.
You're right about that. You're right. And this is why you should be for free speech, because Donald Trump is pro-censorship. I hate Bill Maher, but he wanted to go and sue Bill Maher for a joke comparing him to an orange orangutan. And going after wanted to sue CBS over a story that wasn't quite accurate in his eyes, or not favorable in his eyes. And Trump is super pro-censorship. Wanted to normalize the libel laws with Great Britain's libel laws. Wanted to go and punish flag burners. Wanted to go and arrest people for hurting Israel's feelings at protests. This is Donald Trump. Why do you want to be like Donald Trump? Why do you want to be just like Donald Trump, political punk?
He never has. Okay, he believes he should be free to say whatever he wants without consequences. But outside of that, outside of the locus of his own personal experience, where he has the freedom to say whatever he wants and never have any consequences, dude, he fully believes in punishing people for speech, taking broadcast licenses, firing them, like bankrupting their companies, putting them in an El Salvadorian jail based on what they say, right? Anything. He has no problem with that. You say one negative thing about him, he would have no problem imprisoning you for life. He would not. He would be totally fucking like down with that. But this idea that, I don't know, man, I am very wary of making deals with the devil. I mean, making deals with people that are just deceitful and dishonest, because if you allow yourself to make a deal with somebody like Charlie Kirk, you legitimize him. And
you like Bill Clinton, I presume, political punk. You want to know why we have a housing crisis, a housing bubble crisis back in 2007? It's because in 1997, 1998, Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich worked on getting rid of the Glass-Steagall Act, which basically took money lending institutions and had them all predatory without regulations and what have you, which led to the housing bubble crisis in 2007 and 2008, where there was a whole lot of corporate welfare being pushed toward these corporations under George W. Bush and the first several years of the Obama presidency. Why you want to go and play footsies with people like Newt Gingrich? Because that's exactly what Bill Clinton did.
And you know that Charlie Kirk is going to use you. You know that he is a goalpost mover. The entire Republican thing is a goalpost mover. I mean, look at what they have done since 2016. They started by attacking, immigration, lies about the caravans, lies about an invasion, lies about a financial crash. First, Trump supported gay rights. Then he fucking turned on him. Then he was anti-trans, Muslim ban, trans ban in the military. This is when he had been pro-trans, when he had a beauty pageant. He was the first guy to let trans women into beauty pageants. So this guy's all over the map, completely disingenuous, completely going with the flow. They went from CRT, all right, to fucking DEI, through woke, right? Then to fucking lies about sex changes at school. I mean, lies about immigrants, the migrant crime epidemic that was like 2 murders in 2 fucking years. All of it is bullshit. He's bending and breaking the Constitution. He's claiming that he's powerless to get Abrego Garcia back from CCOT. It is just lie upon lie upon lie upon lie upon, bad faith, right? Bad faith participation, bad faith verbiage. Everything about Trump is based on lies, bad faith, and selfishness. Punished 40 years for fucking vandalizing a car. Like, come on. So you don't make deals with them, period. Okay? I'm not going to fucking make a deal with Donald Trump or Charlie Kirk.
But your support for the Kamala Harrises of the world, the Joe Bidens of the world, the Hillary Clintons of the world, is really the same thing, because those people ended up adopting a lot of Republican policies. There was a time that there was some kind of difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. Aside from some culture war issues, there is really no significant difference between the two parties. They're both the parties of Bush and Cheney, the Democrats and Republicans.
You got to draw the line somewhere. And that's the shit that bothers me about him is Cenk he has an admiration for Donald Trump. He does. He has an admiration for Donald Trump. And I'll tell you exactly what it is, because Cenk has told us. Okay, he told us
this is an important part, and I have really something profound to say about this.
Admiration for Donald Trump is how he took over the party. That's what it was. He mentioned it when he was talking about his frustration with Democrats and his frustration with people like, acquiescing to middle of the road Democrats.
Look, Donald Trump transformed the Republican Party. I hate what he transformed the Republican Party into. I mean, and I certainly wouldn't want the Republican Party to go back to where it was at with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. But I also don't like the Republican Party under this MAGA mob, obviously. But he changed the Republican Party in the ways that many of us who were in the Bernie movement were wanting to go and change the Democratic Party from within. It's a futile gesture to change it from within. I argue more than ever we need a third party. And I've been in and out of the third party movement for a while. I mean, I voted independent for president since 1996, and tried to vote for as many independents as I could for lower offices. And I was still, for a while, a part-time Democrat. And I decided I can't even reward this Democrat or that Democrat in the name of harm reduction, or, oh, this Democrat is an insurgent Democrat that, like an AOC type, never had an opportunity to vote for an AOC type here in North Carolina for what she claimed that she to be for. But the point is that I have to stop kidding myself that the Democratic Party can't be reformed. Argue for a third party, something that you're opposed to. And, Cenk Uygur, at face value, what he's trying to do, if he really believes that you can transport the Democratic Party from within and turn it into some kind of a workers' party, some kind of a progressive party, some kind of a labor party, or what have you, and it could be done, great, because that's exactly what needs to be done. If one is still to believe in the Democratic Party, it must be hostily taken over by the left. But I would argue that the left doesn't need the Democratic Party, that the left needs to do this shit on our own.
Because he hates the Democrats, and he has not been able to let go of, like, MSNBC not giving him a show. If
he hates the Democrats, which I'm not convinced that's where he's at, but if he hates the Democrats, hey, based.
He's not been able to let go of Bernie losing. He's not been able to let go of Bernie rescinding his endorsement of him when he found out with the incel blog.
Well, as far as Bernie losing, look, he got fucked over twice. A lot of us have washed our hands of the Democratic Party, and a lot of us have even washed our hands from Bernie and AOC because they are treated like shit, even though they remain loyal to the Democratic Party.
But he repeatedly, Cenk Uygur, talks about how Donald Trump came in and just commandeered the whole party.
And if you're going to believe in the Democratic Party being effective, you're going to have to go and take over the piece of shit institution and change it from within, if one must believes in it. Because the Democratic Party right now is just unacceptable.
And Cenk Uygur wishes he could do that to the Democratic Party because he hates the Democratic Party so much. He hates them more than any Republican. He hates them more than Donald Trump, but he actually admires what Donald Trump did.
Wanting to change the Democratic Party, if one believes in that's what you need to be done to turn it into a left-wing party, it's not hating the party more than the Republicans. I hate the Democratic Party because it became too much like the Republicans. You seem to not be able to understand that concept.
In going in and gutting the Republican Party and completely taking it over. Cenk admires the shit out of him for that. And that's why he kisses his ass, he polishes the knob, he fucking washes the feet, he fucking licks the taint. He does the whole 9 yards, man. He does.
A lot of Democrats, mainstream Democrats that you defend, do that to the Republicans as well. Even in the media circuit, when a Democrat will go on a right-wing talk show on Fox like Hannity, they end up licking his asshole on the show. But you would defend those kind of Democrats. Well, look at Cenk Uygur, who's got a lot of things to criticize. There's a lot of shit to criticize Cenk Uygur about. For starters, fuck Cenk Uygur for rejecting forced to vote. Honestly, if you were opposed to forced to vote, and I can probably name about 3 people who opposed forced to vote that I let slide by. But if you were opposed to forced to vote, you really were opposed to Medicare for all. And I bet you were probably one of those people that probably did not support forced to vote.
He does. Because he admires the shit out of Donald J. Trump, dude. Donald J. Trump. Dude, yeah, no, it's gross, dude. It's gross. Because, I wouldn't want anybody to do to the Democratic Party what Trump did to the Republican one.
I don't know if I could take more of that. Suffice to say, this guy's a joke because he wants to keep the Democratic Party in Clinton land. And anybody who wants to go and try to tear down the Bill Clintonization of the Democratic Party is somehow MAGA. When Bill Clinton used the Democratic Leadership Council to fucking Reaganize the Democratic Party in the 1990s. In exactly the same way Tony Blair, what he did to the Labour Party in the UK in the 1990s. It's too much of that shit around. You got, you know, if you're going to defend the Democratic Party in the United States or defend the Labour Party in the UK, you got to do it by pushing it left. But at this point, I will argue you need something that's an alternative. So that's kind of where I stand on that. So that's Political Punk. He's silly. He's a goofball. All those things, all the above. Let's see here on the chat line. We have Warren. Hey, yo. Hey, what's up, Warren? How are you doing? Howdy, says Earl of Laurel. I want to make sure I have everybody here. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show says mostly those channels are just selling beef jerky. Chuck, if you could just get in touch with me on Twitter. I would love to have you on the Willy Bragg Show. Let's see here. We have Max RJ. And Max RJ says, can I have Newsom as an asshole too? I'm from California. I should know. Yeah, I have a former friend that hates Gavin Newsom so much that he turned right wing. He can't accept the fact that I hate Gavin Newsom because Gavin Newsom is a corporate Democrat. He's not left wing enough from my perspective, and he can't handle that. So, let's see who else do we have here? Do we have? Oh yeah, I know. Journey, how are you doing today? Let's see. Okay. Kids having surgeries could be considered mutilation. Yeah, it's not even really a thing. The anti-trans ideology on the right is really crazy. It really is. I'm looking through here. I'll make sure everybody's accounted for. Kamishori Kate, how are you doing today? Oh, geez, I'm late. You're never late. You're always welcome here. Let's see. And hope you're doing well. I will also have to have you on my show, Kate. We should do that sometime. Let's see here. We have Snipe Hunter. I see Snipe Hunter was here. Hello, says Snipe Hunter. And hello right back. Looking through. Want to make sure everybody looks like everybody's accounted for. So anyway, I got to go to work in a little bit. I got to eat. Like I look like I don't like I look like I need to miss a few meals, but oh well. If you like what you heard, please press like. It helps with the algorithms. Also, if comment. Like, comment, and share. Because and like, comment, share. That's the First Amendment absolutist. It's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we're the muckrakers of our time. And I just had a brain fart for a second. Reject corporate media. Subscribe to the Willy Bragg Show on all my platforms. And until next time, everyone, free Palestine, free Ed Snowden, free healthcare, and save free speech. And again, until next time, fuck Elon Musk. Y'all have a great evening.